Yes, boys. Today's video, how I managed to grow my chest, a full guide. I feel like it is one of my superior muscle groups, therefore I feel qualified to give some advice. And I'm excited for this one because I feel like this is what the people want. Everyone wants to grow their chest. Am I wrong? So let's find out. Now, we'll make this one much quicker. I will get to the point and give as much information as possible. So, number one, this is me back in the summer. Obviously, this is me after a chest pump. I wish I looked that amazing all the time. It's unfortunately not true. And I was probably brought up with some great genetics to help with my chest. So those are two things to take into account. Take everything with a pinch of salt, but I am saying I'm not giving a definite guide. I'm just giving you kind of what worked for me so you can use it to your advantage. Now, number one, time under tension and understanding tempo. So I think everyone in the gym, including myself, I did this. A lot of clients I work with all just like to move the weight from A to B. No real kind of thought in the process of how it actually goes from A to B. And a lot of the time you'll see, and I think it's just maybe, how the male brain works is just let's pick up some weight and see how much we can lift and how much we can throw around without any kind of due care about, the actual speed or control regarding it. And one thing I always like to say to clients is move the weight, don't let the weight move you. Your goal is to control it, and I think a lot of people understand that you need to control for concentrics and push, but sometimes without actually reviewing your own progress and filming, you forget this, especially when the weight gets very, very heavy. Now, this is where tempo comes in, and understanding, for example, a 3-1-1-1 contraction. I'm victim to this. Right now I'm trying to improve my strength in terms of the bench press, but if your goal is hypertrophy and trying to grow as much muscle as possible, then you need to be focusing on time under tension. And just looking at that tempo right there, 3-1-1-1, that's a 6-second rep. Times that by 10, 60 seconds in a total set. And what that looks like is, imagine if you were to start, obviously, a bench press coming from the top here with the weight above your head. You're slowly lowering the concentric, so 1, 2, 3, pausing at the bottom for 1 second, pushing up in 1 second, micro pause at the top for 1 second, and then coming down for 3 seconds. And just having that kind of standard, having that tempo for the exercise really allows you to focus on just hitting that. And once you focus on hitting that and not simply just the weight, you will notice that you're getting a lot better mind to muscle connection with the actual chest, and that's actually what's going to grow your chest. Because you can just lift, you can cheat a little bit and, just try and rush through the reps and smash it. And yeah, maybe you'll feed your ego a little bit. You'll lift some heavy weight and you think you're progressing. But realistically, you want to make sure you're progressing in the right manner. And the way you do that is actually just sitting back, leave the ego at the door a little bit and focus on your tempo. I'm not saying go and lift light here. No. I'm just saying go and lift heavy, but with the right actual training principles. And that is making sure that you're keeping time under tension as a very, very important factor, and you're focusing on the tempo of each of your lifts. This works works for building your chest and hypertrophy. Now, another little tactic I like to focus on when I try to contract the muscle, because a lot of people tell me they can't feel their chest. Try closing your eyes. It really, really does work. Like if I close my eyes and I just visualize the muscle, I can see it, and you can naturally, your subconscious works in amazing ways that kind of positions your arms in the right way to actually allow for that muscle contraction. I remember when I was at uni, I used to smoke a little bit of the old ganja, and I'd train. It was actually fun times. I do miss that. And I remember the mind to muscle connection was fucking insane, because I just put my headphones in and I'd smoke and I'd be a little bit stoned or whatever. And the mind to muscle connection was insane. Maybe that's why I grew a very good chest at uni. Who knows? But all I know is visualizing and understanding it in your head is really, really key for that. Now, there's also an aspect of activation work that's really needed prior to your movements. It amazes me how many people just go in to the gym and just start lifting instantly. It's like, no, chill. You need to first warm up the rotator cuffs, let them know some heavy weights coming, and also just make sure that the chest is actually primed. There's a bit of blood flow into there, because otherwise, it doesn't know that weight is coming to it, then it's not going to be ready. And it's just like, do a little bit of activation work. And what I like to do is just get yourself on a pec deck or a cable fly and just do some light little, nice and slow tempo fucking contractions, and you're just going to get a little bit of blood flow in there. And then when you come onto the bar, you do your bench press or whatever it is, you're in a good position. Really, really does work. Elbows under your wrist, and I have no idea what I meant to say there. Ignore that. Elbows under your wrist is really, really important. The reason why is because everything is initiated with your elbows. something I like to talk about is this. If you were to shove someone, if you were to push someone as hard as possible, just think, how would you do it? I'm not even going to show you. Just think, how would you do it? You would probably push someone like that, right? And just notice what I did there. When I pushed him here, where were my elbows? Under my wrist. They weren't out here, were they? Like, they weren't... Can I make myself bigger here? 1 second. This is worth it. I don't know if this works. All right, look. If I push someone from here, I'll push him like that. Look where my elbows are, under my wrist. If I push someone like here, my elbows out. Look where my elbows now. They're not under my wrist. They're out here. So when you're actually trying to target your chest, you know, most people think that it comes from nice and wide. It actually comes from here when your elbows are tucked in. That's what's going to get you the most amount of chest contraction, in my opinion. Now, there is an element to it, an argument, and that suggests, obviously, when you're benching, powerlifters want to be nice and wide. Yeah, that is true. That is how you lift the most amount of weight. But we're talking about hypertrophy and growing your chest and getting as much blood flow. So when your elbows are nice and tucked in. So when you're doing your incline presses, when you're doing your Smith press, elbows right under the lift, and you're just nice and slow. Look at where my wrists are, and then bang. That's kind of the way you want to structure things in terms of your lifting. And the same way, when you're doing your... fuck it, I'll keep myself that big. I mean, you're doing your flies as well. Just always think about your elbows. Now they're trying to come in together. So when you're doing your flies, don't try and clap your hands. Try and tap your elbows together like that. Like if you just do it now, like this is bollocks. But try and move your elbows together. Guarantee you feel a squeeze right there. Same way as if you do that and you come all the way down, you feel a squeeze in the outer bit. So remember, it's all in the elbows. Focus on that, and you'll be in a good spot. Then, of course, train hard as fuck. Like this should be a given. Like honestly, film your sets and watch them back. And if you just like can see that you can do more and you gave up, like that's where you're going wrong. A lot of the magic is just in the intensity of what you're training. A lot of people say, "Oh, I can't grow my chest," and it's like, show me how you train. Show me what you do. And it's like, I always just say this, you need to get to the point where your arms physically aren't fucking working, like you're just full sending it. Like if you get to that point, then you're in a pretty good spot. So making sure that your training intensity is there, then obviously bringing up your body weight and eating more. The majority of your chest growth is only going to come once you have your macros and calories in place, especially in a surplus to make sure that you're building muscle. If you're in a deficit, you're not going to see much growth. You need to be bringing your body weight up. You need to be eating more. And finally, you need to be training your chest more. If something is lagging, then it needs more attention than something that is not lagging. Very, very simple. Now, I'm not out here saying train 4 days, chest 4 days per week. You can actually do that. You can do full body. And to be honest with you, if someone is trying to grow their chest, I would actually go and recommend 4 days per week on full body. Obviously, the way you would structure that, you basically do a upper focus day and a lower focus day, and then you switch them around. So it'd be like upper focused full body, rest, lower focused full body, rest, upper. That way you get maximal chest. A lot of the bodybuilders say that the full body split is the best way to start. I personally don't want to do it. So I do upper, lower, and then train it twice per week, sometimes even 3 times per week. But just making sure that you're having that recovery. As long as you have training intensity, food in place, and obviously recovery, you're absolutely sweet. Those are the core tenets of muscle growth. And then just understanding these little tricks just to make sure that you're growing your chest and you're actually activating it is really, really key. So that's kind of the strategy and principles. Now, I'll go into detail a little bit about kind of the exercises I recommend. So I'm a little bit controversial with this. I'll explain my reasoning. This is about what I do, not what you should do, what I do. So before anyone says anything in the comments, shut the fuck up, all right? This is what I do. If you don't like it, it's fine. I'm not telling you to do it. This is what I do. If you want to take it with a pinch of salt, be my guest. Now, I'm big on barbell over dumbbell. Reason why. With barbell, you can add such a very, very small increment to the actual bar, as opposed to dumbbells, which jump up too much. Now I'll explain this why. So incline Smith press, amazing machine. The bar can only go upwards, can't go left, can't go right, can only go upwards. So it means if you position yourself in the right place under the bar with your elbows under your wrists, you can really, really focus on that contraction and getting that time under tension with a lot of stability and a very low risk of injury, which means you can just fucking send it. And that's what we want. If you're in a safer environment to send it, then you're obviously going to grow more muscle, which is why I like your incline Smith press, I like your hammer strength press, and I like your cable flies and your presses. Now, Also, really, really big fan of the barbell bench press. Reason why is as long as you know you're focusing on time and attention, you're gonna get strong. Like people with 140 kg, 180 kg benches always do have massive chests, and there's a reason why. To be able to press that amount of weight, got to lift pretty fucking. You know, you got to have a big chest, haven't you? So understanding that's really key, but just making sure you're also adopting time and attention principles. You are being safe with it. You are recruiting the actual chest and keeping your lower back nice and down. You're not ruining that. And the big reason, in fact, I'll explain that at the end. Actually, I'll explain that. The big reason why I prefer barbell is just because obviously when it comes to dumbbells, right? I think I would throw dumbbell press on here and I feel like it does serve a purpose, but honestly, in my opinion, I just find that the jump when you get to the point where you're like at your max is very, very difficult. For example, I've never actually got over like the 45 kgs on incline. Got to like 6, and then I just felt like, so 45, we're talking 90 kg each jump in total. The next jump is 47.5, so that's an extra 5 kg. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but it honestly was a lot. And I was just fighting to like just slowly increase the reps, and that's not the kind of player I wanted to implement. What I did find useful was with the barbell, I could add a 1.25 kg plate on each side, which meant I was only focusing on a 2.5 kg increment. Even so, I could even buy 0.5 kg plates off Amazon and put that and make a 1 kg increment. You can't really do that with a dumbbell, which means the progression ladder is just a bit weird, and then you start yo-yoing from like 45 to 40. That's what I found. I feel like with the barbell bench, there's just a steady kind of linear progression, obviously with its natural setbacks, but that's just kind of what works for me and why I prefer barbell. But other than that, and it's the same with incline Smith press, the same reason we use machines, because we can obviously add plates, cables as well, and that's kind of why I do things. There's also the kind of the element of safety. Like I just feel, you can converge a little bit more, and you are training each thing at once at a time. I just feel like it's more of a stable movement, and I don't know, just one plane just up, whereas like fucking dumbbells like one's here. I don't know, not for me. But I do still do them. I just think for maximal growth, these are my exercises. And then obviously cable flies, cable press is really, really good. If you're implementing the tempo that I spoke about, you're always going to get such good contraction. And pec deck, just bringing your elbows together as I spoke about, really, really good. And those kind of the exercises I would do. If I'm being honest, the exercises don't matter unless you implement what we spoke about at the start. But those are the exercises I personally approve of. I would personally just choose 4 of those. Depending on what split you do, upper, lower, I do 2 per exercise, and obviously some support exercises, some weighted dips, which kind of cross between triceps and chest. But those are my go-to exercises. Now, finish off with the tips and tricks. So, realise number 1, it takes time. I'm going smaller now. It takes time, and the majority of muscle growth comes from an off-season gaining phase. Just realise it takes time to build muscle tissue, and you need to probably commit to a 1 year to 2 year bulk over a certain prolonged period of time, and that results in you having to increase your calories and bringing your body weight up. So you can have all the training down, but if you're not actually skilled in the work of bringing your body weight up and actually eating like a fucking beast and training hard, then there does need to be some kind of education and learning on that as well. And then eventually every single muscle group will start to come up regardless. So that's just something natural that you have to learn. Second of all, if you are taller, what we spoke about at the start, chest activation is even more important, just because you'll find that when someone's taller and they have longer arms, their triceps and their shoulders can come in and basically steal the show. They can do a little bit more of the work, which is why you always want to pre-exhaust your chest a little bit. So the way you can do this is obviously with pec deck and cable flies by really, really pushing these and actually going a little bit more towards kind of failure. I wouldn't say complete failure, but just, like pumping a lot of blood into this muscle. What you'll find is you're pre-exhausting the muscle group. So when you actually go to train your chest on the barbell, because your chest is already more tired compared to your shoulders and your triceps, the chest is what's gonna fail first. So with full confidence that you're not taking this to complete failure, and you're not taking this to complete failure. You're taking this to complete failure because you pre-exhausted it. It's another really, really good tactic that you can do with your lats when you're doing lat pullovers. Using this doesn't engage your biceps, so you know that when it comes to all of your later back movements, that your lats are giving out first as opposed to your biceps. Same when you're trying to target your quads or your hamstrings. Pre-exhausting with some leg extensions and some hamstring curls. Make sure that you're obviously targeting that muscle group. So a little bit of advice in terms of that. Also, rear delt work and lat engagement will also help prior to a heavy bench lift. If you're doing upper body, sometimes it's in your interest to start with back. You give yourself a little bit of a larger surface area, which allows you a bit more stability, allows you to kind of push a little bit more. Jeff Nippard as well, he always talks about kind of pumping the rear delts before going into a bench, because obviously when you think of like the 3 points of contact, you've obviously got your glutes, your feet on the floor, and your shoulders, your scapula. Your rear delts are obviously going to be connecting with the bench, so if you've got a little bit of a pump on the rear delts, you're going to get a nicer kind of contraction when it comes to the actual chest. Time under tension, as we spoke about, one of the biggest tips. Like the amount of people, like it's actually insane. Like if you just slow down and like look around and just like look at people, like everyone's just trying to move the weight from like A to B. And even I do it all the time. That's why I'm kind of humbling myself now by filming everything that I do. When I watch my stories back, I'm like, do I even want to post that on my stories? Because I was rushing it, and now I'm like consciously thinking, I need to be setting the example. And when it comes to hypertrophy and building as much muscle as possible, although ego lifting's fun, you do really want to be slowing it down. That's where the magic happens. And who gives a fuck if you lift less weight and your mate takes a piss or whatever? No one's going to be laughing when you're bigger. So simple as that. Now, remember what I said, if you can take one thing away from this video, that's one thing I'd highly recommend. Take one thing away from every video that you watch of me. And I'd say think about pushing or shoving someone over. Remember, if you're going to shove someone, you're not going to push them like that. You're going to push them with your elbows tucked in like that, you know? And when you do that, elbows under wrist. And what that does is make sure that you contract the chest in a better fashion. And finally, train it more. You don't need to train it fucking once per week. Your chest recovers every 3 sleeps. If you train your chest on Monday, you can train it again on Thursday. If you train it on Thursday, you can train it again on Sunday. You can get away with 3 sessions per week, realistically. And especially if you're starting out, you're basically in the steroid phase where anything can happen. You can just get massive. So that's what I would recommend. I do understand people find it very, very hard to grow their chest. There will be genetics that play a role. Everyone has muscle groups that are more fortunate than the others. It's the way the game works. But hopefully using some of my tips and kind of talking about how to actually activate and the core tenets of actually building muscle, you might be able to grow that chest a little bit more. If you are someone who struggles with this and you still want to find out a little bit more and actually understand the programming side of things, reach out to me below in the comments, DM me on Instagram, or fill out my form and I can get in touch and jump on a call with you guys. So hope that was really, really useful. That's today's video. We'll be back again tomorrow. All the best. Sweet.